by the military-industrial complex.
I'm just a patsy.
But I have a dream.
I said this once or twice, but it bears repeating. If you like your current insurance, you will keep your current insurance.
You think about the Army and the Navy and the missions they run to protect the world, they run on SAP.
Well, you have done a really spectacular job. I guess pretty much everybody at this table is your customer, so that's not so bad.
Exactly.
So I want to congratulate
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
And there we are. Sorry about the stuttering there, folks. I think, I don't know if it's the signature reduction people or not, but I start the show and Backblaze just kicks in and starts backing my computer up. I don't know how to explain it. But you are muted, George.
I think I have an explanation.
Okay.
Backblaze, like every other program out there, is going to want to know about Mar-A-Lago and the new Mar-A-Lago shirts. Now that Mar-a-Lago has been renamed to Mar-a-Lago, isn't everyone going to try to capture this logo? The new Mar-a-Lago logo, the tiger.
Let's go Tiger.
Yeah, Mar-a-Lago.
So George, where are you today? I need to go find something, so you can tell everybody what you're doing.
I'll tell everybody what I'm doing. I just came from a Trump affidavit hearing. And at that hearing, Trump did not get to present, which is the most unusual thing ever in a court, because usually both parties present, pro and con, defendant, plaintiff. Only interveners presented for Trump, which is the most incredible thing in the world, because I tried to do that in the Imran Awan case, the DNC Imran Awan case, where I sued Perkins Coie and DNC, and they wouldn't let me. They wouldn't even let me intervene in the criminal case of Imran Awan and versus the United States. So it was a kangaroo court. We are not going to do kangaroos this year, though. Mar-a-Lago may have a friend in the menagerie next year, but for right now, we're going to stick with the tiger at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, I was looking for the logo that I made for this show, and in my rushing around, I've put it away someplace and I don't know where I put it, and I don't want to delay the show. But basically, I made it. It's on the marquee for our stream. It's a judge with a kangaroo head.
Yeah, I saw the marsupial thing. It was very funny.
Marsupial, yeah, justice, kangaroo justice in Latin. Yes.
Well, yeah, it is amazing. I saw 3 amendments of the Bill of Rights go down today in front of my eyes, and one guy, an Epstein judge in an Epstein court, in an Epstein police department that managed to look the other way for 20 years, and he represented, of course, victims of Jeff Epstein, just like Stan Pottinger. I don't know if they worked in the same law firm, but this judge also worked in the same firm as Stan Pottinger to represent people in the Epstein case. You can't believe the number of overlaps in this case. But I thought, well, here goes the 4th Amendment, because we're not going to be, normally, 4th Amendment, illegal search and seizure, right? Normally, 4th Amendment is used in drug cases, okay? That low guy over here knows the kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go search and seize the low guy and say exactly where it is. Here's the safe he has. It's in his wife's bedroom, and this is the little sketch. So there's probable cause. So the judge signs off. Now you want to catch the kingpin. So you don't disclose the names of the informant, because
Right.
this guy's got a big gang and he'll just go kill that guy and he'll remain scot-free.
Sources and methods.
I get it. That to me makes sense. But in this sense, they already got the kingpin in their head. They even Peter Strzok, when he's running his media circus over at
Right. How do you get a bigger kingpin than, well, all of us conspiracy theorists out there think that maybe there's somebody above the president of the United States. Is that where this is going? Do you think
that's the logic that, that we can't say who the informant is,
right?
Because the investigation's just starting. Well, they have already got the kingpin. There's no additional fish to fry here. Anybody would be a smaller fish. So that argument of we had to protect this because we don't want to endanger the investigation to get to the kingpin.
So did any of those people that were representing the president who wasn't being represented by his own people, did any of them say, are you trying to protect somebody higher than the president of the United States?
No. It was the most disappointing thing I've ever seen in my life. First of all,
so they're trying to protect Klaus Schwab, or they're trying to protect the Pope? Who are they trying to? The Queen of England?
I mean, I was in the court, and I got there way before it started, so I know I didn't miss anything. Trump's people did not present. 6 lawyers were there supposedly as interveners. Judicial Watch was the only one that I even consider non-MSM, but the attorney for Dow Jones for Wall Street Journal presented. The gal who runs the criminal lawyers.
Is that still Rupert Murdoch, or is that Disney?
No, I think it's Rupert Murdoch still.
Yeah.
They said the Murdoch.
He kept the news. He got rid of everything else. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the CNN and New York Times had an attorney. ABC had an attorney with the Disney, like you mentioned. NBC had an attorney. Reuters, Forbes, that line group. The Palm Beach paper here, West Palm Beach Reporter, or whatever, the kind of TMZ of the Florida papers was there, and then McClatchy doing business as I think Miami Herald or Miami Times. But these are all mainstream, right? These are all mainstream papers, and these people are supposedly the ones. The MSM fake news is supposedly the ones fighting for Donald Trump. And I never saw a more milquetoast presentation in my life.
So what do you think is behind that? Why wouldn't Trump send his own people?
I saw Christina Bobb. Christina Bobb is BOBB is his lawyer. She sat in the front row. I don't know why she didn't present. But to me, again, if it was me, I would have said, Your Honor, you have done the most egregious thing to our Fourth Amendment in our country's history. You have approved a search warrant unprecedented against the previous president of the United States with what looks to the public extreme lack of probable cause. Okay? The only person in the world who can prove that you have probable cause is you and a few insiders of the same people who did Trump Russia. We now found out today.
So they're going to the same judge?
No, it's not the same judge, but it's the same counterintelligence team at the FBI that Peter Strzok ran.
Okay.
Brian Otten was one of the guys who raided, FBI agents that raided, was involved in Trump Russia. And I said this 3 days ago when I went, or a couple days ago when I went out to Gulfstream Park. I said the same guys who put together Trump Russia and the Steele dossier, Mark Elias at Perkins Coie, is the same people that did the raid. They're trying to keep their evidence of going after Trump illegalities, and they're trying to get that evidence in the case of Trump versus Clinton. There's an existing case, Trump versus Clinton. So basically, you have the guys who perpetrated the last thing, which tried to turn the Hillary Clinton email investigation into Trump Russia. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Now they're trying to turn this into like Witch Hunt 7.
So my head is exploding. Tell me how Perkins Coie is involved, because Perkins Coie is also the law firm of Pottinger. Pottinger's father is partners with Perkins Coie, right?
I didn't know that.
Oh wait, maybe I'm sorry, David Boyes. Sorry, I'm having
Yeah,
brain
David
fart.
Boyes. Right.
David Boyes and Matt Pottinger's father are together. But,
Here's the easy way to remember this.
okay.
Sylvester Stallone made Rocky,
Okay.
right? And it was a hit. So then he made Rocky 2, and that didn't do as well. And then Rocky 3 didn't do as well as Rocky 2. And then they got up to like Rocky 9, and nobody even remembered Sylvester Stallone was alive.
Right, but those films probably provided great money laundering opportunities. Let's just say.
Peter Strzok is that same guy as Sylvester Stallone in Rocky or Witch Hunt 1 was Crossfire Hurricane. Or maybe there was one even before that was CIA. I can't remember what they called it, if it was Tropical Storm, Crossfire's Tropical Storm, or whatever it was called. But there was a CIA one that then turned into the FBI investigation. So the Witch Hunt 2, which became Witch Hunt 3, which is the Mueller investigation. Again, same guys I've said from the beginning. Andrew McCabe,
right? Andy McCabe.
Yeah, 3.
My favorite George Webb-ism about Andy McCabe was that Andy McCabe never busted anybody for a crime that wasn't created by Andy McCabe.
Hey, make crime. Make crime is us. That's Andy McCabe's life.
Right.
So it's the same, really, as a CIA unit inside the FBI. None of these guys went through the FBI Academy, right? Andy McCabe did, but Peter Strzok never did. And they keep doing.
He went through the DTRA backdoor.
DTRA backdoor.
Yeah.
But the Mueller report, 2 years of witch hunt, and then we went to impeachment 1 witch hunt, impeachment 2 witch hunt. Now we're into the post presidential witch hunts, right? And now that's where we are. Same guys, essentially same crew. Some of the people get thrown off the boat because they are so obvious. So McCabe had to step down, and Strzok had to step down. But it's still this same corrupt FBI counterintelligence.
Yeah, but it's the revolving door. They leave their official job and then they go get a consulting job, or they become the chairman of the board of some cutout company that gets a military contract, or
they go to work for CNN. Peter Strzok is working for CNN. So, I mean, you can't believe these things. So there's the Fourth Amendment, right? And if I would have been the Judicial Watch, I'd say, Your Honor, you've created in the minds of at least half this country the greatest assault on the Fourth Amendment ever, illegal search and seizure, because you've provided no evidence whatsoever in your attack on the President of the United States of any probable cause. So, and it's a week later now.
Yep.
Break it. There is no sources and methods argument here because there is no bigger fish. So you're not protecting.
Unless there is, and then you would be feeding the Alex Jones crowd.
Okay, but I'm just saying that in the Trump investigation, which is what I heard the government lawyers arguing today, is there's, it would disclose sources and methods. Well, fine, because if you don't disclose sources and methods when you do a political search and seizure, you're opening the door for political searches and seizures 3 months before every election from the rest of our lives.
Right. Could the sources and methods be like Five Eyes disclosures? It could be like, well, we got this information from the British. We got it from MI6, and we got it from Mossad.
Yeah, so we'll get into the Sixth Amendment here in a second, right, to know your accuser. But the Fifth Amendment goes out the door right. I mean, I'm not in my seat 20 seconds before the Fifth Amendment goes out the door, which is due process, where you have a right to defend yourself in court, to due process. That goes out the window. But you're mentioning now the Sixth Amendment, which is right to know your accuser, right? When did we ever have the hearing that said the FBI can come up with anonymous sources, and that trumps the Sixth Amendment?
Isn't that called a star chamber?
Yeah, I mean,
that's a star chamber.
They put in Martin Luther in the middle of that, right? But I mean, we've hopefully progressed in 400 years. We did pass this Constitution thing. And the idea was that you couldn't have some shoeshine boy for the British who was a little spy shining all the colonist shoes say, I heard somebody say something seditious about the king.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, this guy's going up on the hanging noose. You had a right to know if it was the shoeshine boy that said that. And the shoeshine boy had to present himself in front of the court and say, yes, I heard him say it when I was shining his buckles.
So we have 4th, 5th, 6th.
I think they're going to go the other way now. I think they're going to start going to, well, Third Amendment's already probably been, nobody knows what it is, housing troops. But maybe that's going to come with immigrants here pretty quick, housing operatives and informants. But then second and first. There's also a First Amendment right, which is a little known codicil of people's right to know or the public's right to know.
Right.
And they bounced that around a little bit today as well, First Amendment. But
so why do you think Trump wasn't there having his own people represent him?
Well, I heard he tweeted out or truthed out on Truth Social something to the effect, but I looked at it and I couldn't find it. Something that he didn't get a chance to speak. But Christina Bobb was in the audience in the gallery with me, so I know that they had a lawyer there. To me, I would just smack him between the eyes, Your Honor. Look, this is the court that looked the other way 20 years with Jeff Epstein, under your nose. You represented Jeff Epstein. Your credibility here is in question.
It's Jeff Epstein's. The judge is the same. That's what my question was earlier. This is the Jeff Epstein judge that they were talking to?
This is the judge was a criminal defense attorney for a while, and he defended people in.
But this is the same judge, so it's the same judge that issued approved the warrant is the one who is deciding whether or not the warrant should be disclosed?
I don't. Oh well, yes, it's the same person. Yes, who said the Trump Mar-a-Lago raid? Yes, he's considering whether to release the affidavit. Right. All he released was Exhibit 59, which was the list of the top secret boxes, 27 boxes, and.
Right. So I've got Donald Trump's truths here.
Okay.
So the last one was 41 minutes ago, and he's quote tweeting real clear investigations. FBI unit leading Mar-a-Lago probe earlier ran discredited Trump Russia investigation, which is what you were saying.
Thank you, Donald Trump, for verifying.
But he's truthing instead of lying, which is an interesting. And then 2 hours ago, he tweeted something about Gary Player. I cannot fathom that it's been 1 year without the love of my life. I don't know. Gary Player, I don't know. He's a golfer. He's a golfer, right?
Yes.
And then 2 hours ago, something about Liz Cheney. 2 hours ago, a Breitbart article about Donald Trump dynasty killer. And then 2 days ago. So not nothing. It doesn't sound like.
Yeah, I think that people will pick this up. My video that I did right after it shot north. In terms of it's not like gone viral or anything, but people are like, can this be true?
Right.
Can it be true that Trump didn't send in a lawyer to present? I don't know if she wasn't prepared or whatever, but I would have went in and said, look, this is an unprecedented assault on the separation of powers. The door you opened was to attack a political figure with a illegal search and seizure and an illegal investigation with little or no transparency to the public of why you did it. So now anybody can go get a shoeshine boy, say that he said something seditious or he saw something, and now I can go get a warrant and I can do an illegal raid. 30 agents, 9 hours, 8 hours, right? That opens a door. There it is. You might want to play this because it's pretty.
Yeah,
good.
that's right. That's what I was thinking. We could play it here. Okay, let's try this.
So here we are outside West Palm Beach.
I'm going to make sure we have audio. Here we go. Roll it back. Make it full screen. And we'll play it.
So here we are outside West Palm Beach Courthouse, and there's going to be the speaker's scrum here. First thing I wanted to tell everybody is the Trump lawyers did not present. I can't believe that wouldn't be something that you might mention when you're reporting this. Trump lawyers did not present. When you have a adversarial system of justice, usually both parties present. Trump lawyers did not present. That's big. The media, as an intervener, was allowed to present on behalf of Trump. I was an intervener in the Imran Awan case, media intervener. I was denied that, Judge Chutkan, 2017. For some reason, it's agreed to in this case, right? Why? So Trump doesn't present, that's number one. Number two, it's really hard to talk about transparency, right, when you're in an Epstein court that looked the other way for 20 years with Jeff Epstein, for an Epstein judge. That is who is determining this. And the people who generate the warrant here is Perkins Coie. Where's Perkins Coie's office? Where's Bruce Sussman's office? It's in the FBI building. Bruce Sussman is renting from the FBI. Bruce Sussman has a special area from the FBI. So right off the bat, you wonder, is this a kangaroo court, right? You don't have Trump present his case. You have a whole bunch of media interveners. Let me tell you who the media interveners are. They're right there. CNN, Dow Jones representing Wall Street Journal, Reuters, the New York Times, right? That was who was presenting supposedly for the ex-president's interest, right? This is an extraordinary case. There's no doubt that this is the most extraordinary case, search and seizure case ever in the history of the United States. There's no question it's the most extraordinary case. No question it calls for the most extraordinary transparency. And yet, Trump doesn't present, and mainstream media is the key presenter, right? Mainstream media is the key presenter in the Epstein court with an Epstein judge. See that why America may not consider the proceedings all that transparent? And, by the way, we're going to have another.
There it is.
There it is. I mean,
so George, pro tip.
yes.
I think if you pay $2.99 a month now, Twitter lets you go longer than 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Get out of town.
I swear to God.
That's if you become an advertiser, they let you go.
No, they just have a program. I think it's called Twitter Blue. What's it called? I think it's called Twitter Blue.
Okay.
And, yeah. And then you can go longer than 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Well, you were the guy telling me the medium should fit the message. So
No, and I think that's great. And I think that the exercise of being able to squeeze it out in 2 minutes and 20 seconds is a great one.
Yeah.
But you can go, if people want to take care of you, and you can afford the $2.99 a month, you can.
Well, if you do send me $2.99 a month, don't tell any of your friends, so I get thousands of people sending me $2.99 a month.
Right.
So yeah,
or at least dozens. So what do you think about this idea for a T-shirt, though, George?
It's Macropolis. Oh yeah, I like that. That's good. That's good. I would make the kangaroo's head bigger, but that's the only thing.
There's space. I can make the kangaroo bigger.
The kangaroo's head bigger because
I don't know about the eye. The art that I was working with came with the eye on the judge's thing, but I kind of like the eye. It's kind of
I would put another kangaroo on there because in my first element, like the first thing I noticed was just us, not justice, for some reason. And then I went to the fiducious Macropolis, and then I went to the eye, and the fourth thing I went to was the kangaroo.
Yes.
So I think if you made the kangaroo double kangaroo, that would, and it looks a little bit like it doesn't quite look like a gavel, so I might make the gavel bigger, with the little ridges. Looks like he might be toasting with it. But anyway,
okay, we can do that. And did you notice he's got Guy Fawkes eyes, the kangaroo? So he's got the eyes from the Guy Fawkes mask.
This is going to be great. I love it.
All right.
So yeah.
Okay. So I'll take your notes. See, this is how art happens, folks. It's like it's not like, oh, I've got a divine inspiration and I've got to defend my design. It's like you throw a sketch out there, you get some notes, you go, you make some changes. It's all good.
Yeah, I love it. I see Kate's comment of, is this a like leading into a plea bargain? And I don't know. I think this is leading into a cover up of, I hate to say it, the Hillary Clinton email and Trump Russia. Everything I've seen so far tells me that the illegal plan that the folks had at the CI division of FBI of trying to entrap Trump in Moscow, trying to get him to do the Moscow Tower, Trump Moscow, and try to put the prostitutes into pee on the bed and everything. And he didn't go. They went ahead with it anyway and published the dossier anyway after he lost. And that's what fell apart. That's what fell apart. Like Strzok said, no, let's just keep going like it's real. We've got CNN. We could push this false narrative. We've got Yahoo. We've got New York Times on our paid staff from Glenn Simpson.
On our Mockingbird staff.
Yeah, we got New York Times. We got Washington Post. Let's just push it out. We don't have any evidence whatsoever, Peter.
Pottinger can call his friends over at Reuters.
Yeah.
Right.
He worked at Wall Street Journal for 5 years.
Was there? I thought it was Wall Street Journal. I thought it was Reuters, but
he worked at Reuters as well.
Yeah.
So
Chuck Johnson was at Wall Street Journal. Maybe there's a pipeline there.
Yeah, the same prep school. So anyway.
That's right. Same prep school.
Same prep school. So I do think this was a red letter day for the Constitution, and if Trump's in on it, and that's why he didn't present today, that's not going to look good. I don't know what people are saying.
Is it a red letter or a scarlet letter? Because I think red letter is different than scarlet letter, isn't it? Maybe. I don't know.
A red letter day is supposed to be a good day, I guess. And
and I think a scarlet letter is like a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the A for adultery and scarlet letter,
right?
Nathaniel Hawthorne. But I think this is the letter T. This is a scarlet letter for the judicial system, for transparency. Like I said, if it was a low-level drug guy, I'm all for keeping Johnny informant name secret until we get the kingpin. But when you start with a kingpin, especially,
I used to believe that, but I think that the kingpin, everything leads to Langley. So,
well, maybe that's what they're saying, is this leads to Langley, and Trump's just working for Langley, and that would expose Trump.
I think that as I keep a beat on the conspiracy world, the loudest one is that Trump works for Israel. That the Jared pulling his Jared is controlling the puppet and working for Bibi, and that's the conspiracy that I hear more than other conspiracies.
Yeah, I see the comment there by Cindy. I've heard the Mossad thing or the Israel controls Trump thing, and maybe that's true. They all are on the same island. I mean, it is hard to believe that all of this is on this island that I'm on. Kravitz and Kissinger and Kolomoisky and Trump and Epstein, and everybody's crowded on this little strip of land. How could that be? But assuming that there is something going on here, and I have to report it straight up and down like it is a real case, and it is a real, judicial proceeding, I got to be honest. What I saw today was just the most milquetoast performance ever by an attorney who was supposed to be a fighter from Judicial Watch. And then one of the most, you want to talk about masquerading as a court proceeding. This was the biggest masquerade party. This would put Mardi Gras to shame.
Yeah, well, Judicial Watch is very good at milking these things for zillions of dollars. So my advice would be, if you want to see real journalism, that you should look below. And next time you start thinking about maintaining Tom Fenton's CrossFit habit, you might help us out instead.
Yeah, here's my issue: is this the most extraordinary search warrant ever, demanding the most transparency ever. What have you done, Your Honor, to convince the American people that you had probable cause? Right?
Right.
You're going to protect a low-level person who might be shuffling boxes around Mar-a-Lago. There's these two guys, Cipollone and some other guy, Fulton or whatever his name is. Two guys are shoved, and now today it comes out that they may have pushed boxes into the thing after.
Who are Cipollone and who are these?
These are two guys that were hired by Trump to work with the National Archives to determine what should be in the storage unit and what.
So were they working under Kash Patel? Because Kash Patel claimed on that interview with Fox that he'd been working with Trump on working with the National Archives, as I understood it. You could fact check me on that, but I thought that what he was saying was that he had been working with Trump in order to get the stuff with the National Archives all sorted out, because Trump had declassified a bunch of stuff as he was walking out the door, and the National Archives was dragging their feet on that.
Well, what I had heard is that Trump said declassify everything, but the lawyer for Trump didn't actually file the paperwork to declassify everything. So,
well, Kash Patel said that he didn't have to because he wrote an executive order declassifying it.
Yeah,
and the pencil pushers were saying, well, you can't do it that way. Thermomstable says we need their names. Is that the two people's names again?
Yeah, two people worked with Department of Justice on the June 3rd raid, and these guys are going to be testifying against Trump. They're trying to make it sound like these two guys are the two key witnesses and not Matt Pottinger. But if you think about it, these guys weren't working for Trump at a time when the safe was being opened and national secrets were being talked about. My estimation here is not estimation. The facts show that this is an accumulation of materials over 6 years. So my theory with the safe would be you would put the things that are top secret in the safe. You would put the stuff that's not top secret in the storage cabinet. But we don't know because they're sitting on the affidavit. But the affidavit would go through this. I was with Donald Trump on Christmas 2019. My name is Matt Pottinger. I worked for the National Security Council. We found out that Soleimani from Hezbollah was going to attack the United States and attack Donald Trump events with some kind of biological agent, right? We recommended to the president that we take out Soleimani, right? I know and I saw Donald Trump put the Soleimani file in his safe, which is located in his wife's bedroom wall. Here's the sketch. Okay, now that's the kind of specificity that you need in a warrant to say, okay, we told you that this Soleimani, let's just take the Soleimani killing, supposedly some of the stuff relates to Iran. We told you that was top secret information, had to be declassified, and you couldn't keep it. And you defied the order. So therefore, you are misappropriating classified information. That's the sort of thing that the affidavit would say, right? I think the American people have a right to know that. Otherwise, we're just giving carte blanche to any judge, any district judge, and any shoeshine boy that Perkins Coie can come up with three months before an election.
Right. Well, it's interesting because I think I have a slightly different take on it, which is that I think that they've been doing this for decades, and the only thing that's different now is that they're doing it to somebody at the top instead of doing it to the thousands or tens of thousands of people that they've been doing it to on a lower level for decades. And
you're right. I mean,
and it's illegal, immoral, and fattening, and it should stop. And I don't know how I think it's great that it's happening to Trump because it's waking a bunch of people up to the fact that, we hear these stories about these drug dealers or, my jaded, one-sided, biased personal opinion is that like most of these drug busts can be directly attributed to the fact that the people that are running the government are allowing or bringing the drugs in to the United States of America and creating. It's like you said about Andy McCabe. It's all make crime, right? The FBI is an organized crime syndicate that has the benefit of the rule of law behind it, and they can basically make people do whatever it is that they want to. I'm sure that they could kick my door in behind me right now and come up with all kinds of crimes that I've committed. They could make up all kinds of things, or they could find things. They could shuffle through my papers and find something. And that was, to your point, that's what the Fourth Amendment was all about. And now that we're all clicking on end user license agreements where we basically waive all of those rights without even thinking about it, we're in a bit of a mess, George.
Well, all I've been doing in my head since that's watching the milquetoast performance of Judicial Watch was thinking about what I would have said instead, which is the only other presidential search warrant that I can remember in my time was a sitting president of the United States, Richard M. Nixon, for the Watergate tapes, right? And these were made with the knowledge that there would be executive privilege, that they never would be able to be presented publicly. And we had to have a parade of all the insiders especially the inside seven, Colson, Haldeman, Ehrlichman, John Dean, all of them, public hearings to justify the special investigator, I think it was Sirica, to effect and have the Department of Justice serve that warrant. So that's the precedent here, Your Honor. Why would you possibly deviate from that precedent when you have a former president of the United States? Why would you deviate from that? That's the precedent. That's the bar. That's the precedent case law.
There's a guy that I used to watch on Twitter. I think he used to live stream and walk around the Capitol, and when it was freezing cold and when it was really hot, and I think that he called this a school play.
I hope it's not. I hope George Webb was wrong. I really do. I'm fighting in there like you are every day for the Constitution. I really do believe in this thing. And I think if we draw out the correct historical precedent, the only other time the FBI has ever published a warrant was when they got the wrong guy, Richard Jewell, in the Atlanta bombing. They published the warrant after they made the mistake and knew they made the mistake and knew they had an innocent guy.
And that's the only other time they've ever published a warrant?
To my knowledge, it came up in the courtroom today. And so that was their justification. It's basically, well, we only publish warrants when we make an egregious mistake and ruin somebody's life, but we still want to push the narrative that there's a lot of terrorism, so we do these things at the Olympics. It sounds like the World Wuhan Games a little, but that's when we decide to leak it, or think about Peter Strzok leaking the contents of the Steele dossier. We know he did that through Perkins Coie. We know that. I'm sorry, it's Michael Sussman. It's not Bruce Sussman, or Mark Elias. Mark Elias is the guy who went and created the Steele dossier, and they presented and leaked that like it was truth. I met the guy from Yahoo News, Michael. But he gave it to a couple of different places, like a couple of different outlets, and they reported circular reporting, and then it became, supposed fact. So this is, I can't believe the point man. I listened to CNN radio on the way over here. The point man on this is Peter Strzok. It's like Rocky 11. It's like Witch Hunt 11, and you want to go, oh my God, you haven't quit yet. You're still going. I can't tell you how many films I've said Peter Strzok's still in the driver's seat. He's still in this. And everybody says, oh, come on, he's left the FBI. That cabal is still in the driver's seat.
They still have their Blackberries or something.
Well,
maybe green zone phones.
yeah. I was on a thing today talking about Hunter Biden and just said, overthrow of Ukraine, all the energy deals that they had Hunter do for them. There was probably half of the deal was some other thing for biolabs that Hunter didn't know anything about, but Hunter was out there signing his name, just like his brother did for the biolabs in Ukraine. And it's all just a big front there too for Cofer Black. So yeah, maybe we should change the topic. I don't want to bang the drum too hard on this, but at some point you got to put your foot down, and maybe I'll intervene. Next week's the hearing. Maybe I'll intervene in the case. Hey, you put in Judicial Watch, maybe I'll intervene, and I'll just tell the judge straight out.
Right.
Your name is on the worst egregious use of the Fourth Amendment ever.
Right.
Your name is going to be associated with destruction of a pillar.
Well, maybe Mike Cernovich should intervene. He's been pretty effective on the Epstein intervening front. He's been able to get some attention on that before, right?
Bring it on into Omeleteville. I've been here all week.
Right.
I've been here Monday. I made no secret about exactly where the court is. Bring it on into Omeleteville, Mike. I encourage anybody to do it. The only reason I am now thinking about intervening is because nobody else did in an effective way.
I mean, there's all these people: Robert Barnes, attorney, Mike Cernovich, attorney. There's a bunch of guys out there that I think Viva Fry is Canadian. I don't think he's on the bar in the United States. But all of these guys work. What they'll do is they'll find a Florida attorney who can present for them.
I met with Farmer Jones, or I've been talking with Farmer Jones down here. I don't know if he'll.
Is he an attorney?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that communication is going on. The next hearing here will be in a week. But somebody needs to go in and say, look, this is like raiding Obama's house. And having
so Viva Fry was in the courtroom today. So it'll be really interesting to see what he has to say.
Well, I know everybody knows I was in the courtroom because Reuters covered the line to get in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in that line about 10 minutes trying to negotiate getting in. So I'm if you look at the Reuters feed, I'm right there. So if you were there, put your intervener, or at least file an amicus brief.
So what's the next step in this? So, because you said you wanted to change the subject, but I want to find out what's the next step.
The next step, I just don't want to sound like I'm ranting. The next step is the judge is going to let the government go by line. Anytime your fundamental rights are impinged, your Bill of Rights that you're born with, right? God gave them to you. Anytime those are impinged, meaning I'm going to come in and seize something from you, the government has to show a compelling interest. Why it endangers national security if we don't impinge on your rights.
Right.
Okay. So it's got to be impending. Like if we don't stop Donald Trump now, he's going to give the new super stealth bomb, Satan bomb, to Iran. Right? It has to be impending, compelling interest.
We're going to give this stuff to our enemies that the Clintons already gave them.
I thought of that. I thought,
yeah.
Is this the anti-aircraft system they're going to pin on Trump?
Yeah, like,
all the centrifuge technology we gave Iran. Is this going to be everything Strzok ever sold for Hillary Clinton, and they're going to pin it on Trump? They have these two jamokes move these files in from the old Clinton days that they gave to China. They just had the jamokes move those files in. But if you are an attorney, and if Viva Fry was there or whatever, if you don't have a pair of testicles by now, grow a pair between now and next Thursday, and file an intervener. I might do it pro se, if I don't see an attorney step up. And here's your chance to grow a pair. So, and get in front of the judge and say, you've assaulted the U.S. Constitution, and you have broken precedent in the most unprecedented case. The only precedent here is Watergate, which your buddy who was defending Jeff Epstein while you were defending Jeff Epstein employees, Stan Pottinger, was the key guy who did it, by the way. You're linked to the biggest conspiracy to take down a president before this, right? Mm-hmm. So you don't have a very good ground to stand on. Plus your court and you looked the other way 20 years when Epstein was doing his child trafficking here. So don't get on your high horse with me, Your Honor. I'm here to tell you the truth, right? You shit all over the U.S. Constitution, and I'm not going to take it. You're going to be held accountable for the most egregious using of the U.S. Constitution as a piece of toilet paper, right? You need to produce.
Since John Marshall.
Transparency. Yes, exactly. You need to show transparency in your actions. This is the most extraordinary search and seizure case in history. It demands the highest level of transparency, right?
Mm-hmm.
All you have to your credit is you let a child trafficker run around here for 20 years untouched. That's the only thing you have to your name. That's the only thing you were known for before this. So don't get on your high horse with me, right? You have no judicial judgment. You have no judicial standing. As a matter of fact, you have negative judicial standing.
So I understand why you said child trafficker, but the reason I take issue with that frame, and it's an accurate frame, it's not inaccurate, is that he was child trafficking because there was a purpose behind his child trafficking. He was a blackmailer, and I think that when we concentrate on the kind of salacious sexual underage nature of it, then we kind of distract or deflect from the fact that he was a blackmailer, that he was building books on people, and he was using those books in order to influence their decision-making process, whether it's a vote or a judgment in a court or a business decision about which contract to approve or not approve. That those were the types of things that it seems that Epstein was really involved in, that nobody ever talks about, that no reporters ever cover. Well, I take that back. Whitney Webb does, and Johnny Vedmore and people of that ilk. They talk about the blackmail component of all of that stuff. But who knows? Maybe who's got Epstein's book? Who's got? I mean, maybe it was a dead man's what do they call that? A dead man's switch that Epstein had left with Trump. Who knows?
Well, I've been talking about Epstein with the DynCorp tail numbers on helicopters and planes in the U.S. State Department since 2016, and since I'm blue in the face, and I went to Wales to try to meet with Johnny Vedmore to tell that story. I did tell that story to Sean Atwood, who wrote a book about it. So I'm going around to all the folks who just mainly concentrated on the sex angle, and really, like you said, trying to expand their purview on him as a State Department blackmailer. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
So I don't want to.
Well, is it State Department? We don't know, really.
Well, no, the State Department had the tail numbers for the DynCorp tail numbers. So, I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
Again, I got to go with evidence. So I can only associate him with the State Department. But the bigger question is, somebody has got to get in there, and maybe you go to jail for a year, right, for contempt of court, but at least you get that quote on the record. You, Your Honor, have done the most extraordinary, egregious misuse of power in the history of the judicial system with regard to search warrants.
Right.
Right. That's what we're trying to establish here. This is the most extraordinary case. Extraordinary transparency. The only precedent is Watergate. We had weeks and weeks and weeks of public hearings before the search warrant was served on Nixon to produce his tapes. Weeks. We had profuse public interaction with daily hearings that I used to run home from at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to see the last little bit of Magruder, or whoever. So Stan Pottinger is the number one blackmailer of them all, taking the people who Jeff Epstein compromised and threatening them with showing, and showing the tapes of the girls, a lot of them underage girls, so that meant that those guys were compromised with going to jail for statutory rape. That's why he used underage girls. Stan Pottinger. Isn't it interesting that Matt Pottinger is at the base of this story? Huh. Is that the reason why you're protecting the key person? Because he's the son of the person that you used to help take down the previous president that this happened to? That's what it sounds like. It sounds like the conspiracy rests with you and the people behind your bench, right? And your dealings with Stan Pottinger taking out Nixon, and now you think you can get away with it with even less proof and even less public.
Is Roger around? Have you talked to Roger about that? Because Roger would be if Roger understood that. I mean, Roger probably does understand because Roger was intimately involved with Nixon at that point.
Sunny Isles is not too far from where I am. I'll be back. I'll go down and meet Roger anytime he wants. I know Tyler Nixon. I had a lot of discussions with him during Roger's case. I knew his lawyer very well, Brian Lloyd, who provided me a lot of information about Fort Belvoir. So Roger, if you're listening, tweet this out to Roger.
Yep. I'll
come down. I'll work with you. I'll work with Tyler if you want to file an amicus brief or if you want to file an intervener. But so what if you go to jail for a year for contempt? In the big scheme of things,
a lot of things can happen to you in jail nowadays, George.
Somebody drop a thing on your weight on your head. At least you went down for the Fourth Amendment. You know what I mean? At least you died for the Fourth Amendment or the Fifth Amendment or the Sixth Amendment, right? Who wants to get just hit by a bus? I'd rather die for the Fourth Amendment.
All right.
So there you go.
The George Amendment.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying that you present the case. Are we going to have an adversarial system here where you hear both sides? Is that going to be in this case or no? Okay. Well, if it is, here's my statement. Here's my intervening. You recognized all these other parties as interveners. Now I've got precedent to say I can intervene.
Right.
Well, the only thing he could knock me down on is that I'm not an attorney.
Right. So where's the loudest angry attorney? Where's Mark Levin?
I think Farmer Jones is who I'm betting on because he's here. And but Mark Levine would be good.
I'm just saying Mark Levin will write a book about it and then complain about it for 3 years. So, yeah.
This is why I go there, Peter, and this is why I do the videos and I travel is because, and you have to be in the courtroom. There's no recording devices allowed. So there's going to be a lot of people making a lot of comments from their grandmother's basement about what happened today in the courtroom. They weren't there.
Right.
Okay. So
and you've been there for days. You were there when nobody was there.
I got there Monday and I went to the courtroom. I had a lot of people telling me that's not the right courtroom. Well, that's interesting. About 400 people showed up at the place I said it was going to happen at. So this thing is going to be, I hate to say Gettysburg for the U.S. Constitution, but this is Gettysburg for the U.S. Constitution. And unlike Gettysburg, where you needed to have like a big bunch of guys at the exact right spot to turn the tide, this is one where you only need 1 or 2 guys. This is one like the Battle of 1812 where they blew the trumpet at the wrong time, and Ney went in with the cavalry too soon. One guy could make the big difference here. Chernovich could make the big difference, or Tyler Nixon could make the big difference. I'm trying to convince Farmer Jones to do this, by the way.
Okay, well, I'll tweet this at people. I don't know if
tweet it at them and shame them into not standing up for the Constitution.
In the meantime, Carrie and I, it's back there. Carrie and I started reading The Last Nazi last night, and by Stan Pottinger. Are you there?
Yes.
And I have one completely non sequitur tidbit that I wanted to throw at you. So, maybe 2. So Richard Grove, who I'm a big fan of, Grand Theft World. I'm going through his website because I'm trying to get my arms around all the content that's in his website, and I found a podcast that he did in 2006 And it's interesting that you're talking about DynCorp and human trafficking, because he was talking about DynCorp and human trafficking in 2006. And he couldn't get anyone to pay any attention to him because they thought that he was, wearing a tinfoil hat or something. But he's got I tweeted out that podcast, and it's about 2 hours long. I highly recommend it to people who want to kind of get their arms around his 9/11 experience, which was extensive. And then there's one other completely random side note that I wanted to throw out as a tidbit for people who follow our podcast right to the end here. And that is another thing that I tweeted out, which is it was an interview between the Media Monarchy guy and John Evan Pilato and a guy named Colvin, who was he's the author of a series called Mothmen. And they had a very interesting conversation about what Colvin was calling reverses. And it took me a while to be able to understand what he actually meant when he was saying reverses, but I think that what he meant in the interview is man bites dog stories. So his contention in this interview was that right before big psychodrama events happen, so let's say a school shooting or 9/11 or some kind of or COVID-19, whenever there are these psychodrama events that happen, you can kind of tell when they're going to happen, because the tell is that there are lots of man bites dog stories that pop up in the news. And his thought process, his rationale for that is that those things are called pattern interrupts in hypnosis. And the idea is that and I saw a story this morning, for example, it says, 9th infant diagnosed with monkeypox. A headline like that puts a picture in your head because you have a preconceived idea about what monkeypox is, and then you have to ask this question, which is like, well, how would an infant get monkeypox? And, all of these kind of like salacious ideas flow into your head, and it's a form of hypnosis. And what Colvin was saying in the interview is that right before there are the psychodrama events, you'll wind up noticing in the news lots of man bites dog stories. He calls them reverses. And so I thought that I would just let the people who watch be aware of that. If you start seeing stories like that happening, it may be a tell that something is going to happen. That's it.
Oh, you mean like when somebody who's a DSS security officer who's trained to protect our diplomats from teams of terrorists to kill our top diplomats, when you take that person who works for the US State Department and the top person at NATO, and then you try to paint them as a person who's afraid behind their window of George Webb. And it's actually CNN that outs her with the picture of her and her dog and her husband and her child and the neighborhood she lives in and several rooms of her house and the outside of her house. That kind of man bites dog story, I understand.
Yeah, those are, and he calls those reverses, where you take the logic and then you turn it on its head.
Yeah, it's not me, the investigative journalist, doing good reporting, following up on a lead from the Chinese foreign ministry. It's just this what conspiracy theorist guy.
Right.
I'll read you the description as a favor to you for the last Nazi, Stan Pottinger. Melissa Gale is an attractive, ambitious lawyer investigator of the Office of Special Investigations, the Justice Department's Nazi hunters. Her quarry, this is her prey or her target.
Yes.
Known only as Adolf Wolf. Adolf Wolf was a young, brilliant protege of Joseph Mengele. I wonder if that is really Eric Traub or not, because Eric Traub ended up at Fort Detrick. But I don't want to.
Or Dr. Greenberg, because Dr. Greenberg, who's the MK Ultra, the MK Ultra conspiracy people, if you Google the Greenberg speech, Greenberg was supposedly a young protege of Mengele.
Okay, because I remember Mengele's nom de death, or what a nom de mort, was Green, Dr. Green. So, but anyway, let's
Green Balm, I meant. I meant
Green
Green
Balm.
Balm. Yeah, and if you go to the Duke Report and you look under the book section and you type in Green Balm, you'll find the Green Balm speech, and you will find a recording of a psychologist, a hypnotist, who was deprogramming people who had been programmed by Green Balm.
Ah, interesting. Okay, so just remember Eric Traub refrigerator, the butcher of Auschwitz, okay, presumed dead for almost 50 years. Adolf Wolf has suddenly reappeared in the United States to take the lives of 3 people in a chilling, unusual way. Melissa stalks Adolf Wolf to bring him to justice, only to discover that he's actually stalking her. That's Eric Traub. Okay, she has something he wants, a personal medical history that holds the key of his plan for the ultimate crime, using a deadly biological virus. Stan Pottinger and then Matt Pottinger. They both seem to discover these things first time, new novel things. So anyway,
It's like you read it in a book.
yeah, using a deadly biological pathogen, right? Virus born in genetic projects started in Nazi labs. Otto Wolf is about to unleash the ultimate weapon of mass destruction. It would have been nice if they had just finished the sentence that said at the Wuhan military games. But anyway,
Right.
Melissa Gale and the baby she is carrying could be the key to success.
Oh, you spoiled it, George. I haven't gotten to that part yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is just the.
I know it's the blurb. It's the blurb. Yeah.
Yeah, the blurb. Okay. Trapped in his nightmare scheme, she's forced to fight for her life. The tension builds unbearably as Melissa races to save the baby and stop Otto Wolf from carrying out the plan, which forces her to confront the boundaries of good and evil, not only for him, but for herself.
Well, I'm going to keep reading.
Tell us about the first chapter. I want to know, how far have you gotten into it?
Well, I've gotten into they're doing this parallel editing thing. So they start off, the first scene is a cold room in Auschwitz, and there's a little girl who's looking through, or there's somebody who's looking through the door. I don't know if it's Otto Wolf or not. It might be Otto Wolf looking through. Was it Otto Wolf? No. It was a kid looking through the door, and there is a little girl sitting on the table, and they're trying to calm her down by getting her to sing Silent Night or something in German. No, I think it's Silent Night. Okay. And the subtext is that, and they're trying to calm her down as they shoot her full of chloroform. I didn't know you could inject chloroform. I thought you breathed chloroform, but who knows? And then they cut to the FBI going up a stairwell, and they're armed with MAC 10s, and I had to stop there, and I had to make a lot of criticisms because I think MAC 10s are kind of ghetto for the FBI. Like, I didn't really think that the FBI did MAC 10s. But they kick the door down, and there's an old man sitting in a chair, and he's got a IV bag, right? And they're not allowed to arrest him unless they can positively identify that he has a SS tattoo on his arm, and he's missing his larynx. He uses one of those little talk box things. So they verify the tattoo, and then at the point where they're getting him to talk with the talk box in order to identify his voice, he uses a voice command that sets off the naphtha that is in the IV bag, and it explodes and fills the room with a fireball, and the FBI agent grabs his laptop and runs out of the room with her pants and hair smoking, and so that's as far as I've gotten.
Well, you notice it was published in 2003, the same exact year that Matt Pottinger, the son, is staying at the Mandarin Hotel in Hong Kong for the outbreak of what? SARS. And interesting, he is the key guy key conduit between the State Department and Donald Trump for what? SARS-2. Interesting that now the person who's protecting the key informant, Matt Pottinger, also knew Stan Pottinger in the Epstein case, defending the Epstein employees and the Epstein supposed victims who he outed and blackmailed. Interesting. So we should keep reading this thing for more revelations. You almost can tell the future by reading Stan Pottinger chapters.
Well, we'll keep it. Carrie and I will keep reading it. It's actually quite fun. It's fun to read. It's not a great. It's a well written. Carrie's first reaction was, "This is pretty well written. Did he really write it?"
I think he was a really good writer.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that he's not a very intelligent guy. He is, obviously. I just think he had just this kind of dark scientist's view of the world. Like, if I'm not going to be famous on my merits, I'm going to be famous for something.
Sure.
And I know just where to go. I'll go court the Nazis who had deadly pandemic viruses. Because that's, if you think about it, it has.
Or I'll write parallel constructions to cover for them, and maybe they'll make it into a movie, and I can make millions of dollars that way.
And I saw The Fourth Protocol. He wrote a book called The Fourth Protocol.
Right.
Which I saw one version is about building a bomb with Michael Caine and Pierce Brosnan. And it goes through very detailed, with the RAM charge going into the polonium and the lithium, and exactly how you make a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
So he is certainly knowledgeable. And again, what do we find? Gets moved in. Today we had the one of the major news organizations say they had a source from the NARA, National Archives Review Association, or that National Archives, say that they move files into the storage room. And what do they say the key files are that can't be declassified? Restricted data is what they call it. Nuclear weapons secrets. Now, how would?
That's what I'm going to take, because I'm leaving the Oval Office. I'm going to take the nuclear weapons secrets because I can go make my own bomb.
Right. Yeah. So that's what they're saying is Trump took the secrets because he wants to sell those to the Iranians to get money for Hillary Clinton. I'm sorry, get money for his next campaign. Right. No, wait, that's Peter Strzok that does that with Iran and Hillary. Peter, you've got it reversed again. You're writing so many reverse stories. You're confusing Donald Trump with you. That's you stealing the classified nuke secrets and selling them to Iran and getting oil money back to Hillary Clinton. That's you, Peter. So
I'm glad you picked up on this reverse story concept, because
that's Peter Strzok's life.
Yeah, it kind of hit
every crime I did and blame it on Trump.
It kind of knocked me over because, again, I never thought about it as a psychological warfare technique, but the idea that Colvin was explaining in it is that, and this is hypnosis. It's like, why do I have a countdown? At the beginning of the Duke report. Well, because countdowns put people into an alpha state. Okay, full disclosure. So, and I have all the visual imagery of the Nazis and stuff, because you and I talk about Nazis a lot, and we understand that the Nazi technology was moved over into the West, and then it was used for surreptitious things. So there's all kinds of, I've used subterfuge to a certain extent, but I'm always learning this stuff, right? And if you don't want to be hypnotized by the Duke report, skip the countdown. Just go do something else, and then come in and just listen to George and me talk. So I'm giving you the antidote right here. I'm giving you the weapon, and I'm giving you the antidote right here. But
what I love about the intro, though, Peter? You go through all the Nazi wonder weapons.
Yeah, the Wunderweapons.
Yeah, the Me-262, the Wagner guided bomb. You go through them all with V2, beautiful. But then you're shaken out of everything's a Nazi wonder weapon. If you think about it, that's all we argue about today is the successors of those things. But then the shots, the three assassinations, kind of jar you out of your alpha state into some kind of
right. But then I cut right to Apollo taking off, because I lived that. I was a little kid.
Yep.
I was a little kid at the time, but the president gets killed, and then his brother gets killed, and then Martin Luther King gets killed, and then we land on the moon. Like, it was so crazy, right? It was crazy. So reverses. So now we understand about countdowns. If you're looking at the countdowns, last week, or I was on a show, I think I was on Michael Parker's show, and I was talking about Amazing Graceful, really graceful,
Really graceful. Yeah.
really graceful. And I'm not saying, and somebody in the comments said, maybe it was last week, and somebody on the comments said, now I have to look out for her. And it's like, I'm not saying look out for her. What I'm saying I'm not saying that she's a bad person, and I'm not saying that she gives bad information. I'm not saying any of those things. What I'm saying is she uses hypnotic technique. So in the beginning of her latest video, where she talks about the 90-second New York PSA warning the citizens of New York about a nuclear weapon, the first 10 things she says are general questions that any reasonable person would answer yes to. So you're going yes, 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 yes. When people present information, Stu Peters does it, Tucker Carlson does it, Sean Hannity does it, Rachel Maddow does it, Bill Maher does it. It is a technique. And maybe they're just modeling each other, okay? But when you get a bunch of people to say yes, 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 yes in their head before you suggest something to them, the idea, the odds that they will accept whatever it is that you're saying as gospel go way up. So that's it.
I think that also works with juries. And, Matt Pottinger, have you ever been to Mar-a-Lago? Yeah, actually I have. Well, were you there between Christmas 2019 and January 5th, 2020? Yes, I was. Have you ever been in the area of Donald Trump's office? Yes, I was. Have you ever sat in a chair in such a way that you would have known where files were being brought back and forth? Yes, I did. Would you know of a storage room? Yes, actually I did. Have you ever seen Donald Trump put anything in his personal safe? Yes. So you'd know the location of that? Yes. Would you know where the first lady's bedroom was? Yes, I would. Oh, well, wouldn't it then make sense that you would be one of the prime suspects for doing being the person, the key affidavit witness for the Trump search warrant? Right? And that's the question.
So now you're Jerry Spence.
Right. But you box it in such a way that
Yeah.
sounds like, well, there's only three people, or, like Navarro and Mike Flynn before Pottinger, and Pottinger are the only people that could possibly provide the information. And that's what they know. And that's what they don't want to release. No one wants George Webb to be right about Matt Pottinger, but they also don't want to look like, hey, we're going to shut this down so the conspiracy theorist is right. So they're going to go through this falderall where they take years to do little tiny bits and pieces of the thing to give the impression that it's an open process. They stumbled badly, right out of the gate today. So I look forward to going through the Pottinger book. I'll get the book with you and I'll read it along with you, and we'll lay reality, or what we think reality is, over the Pottinger book, and we'll see Matt Pottinger's life flash before us.
Well, very good, George.
Yeah.
And so something to look forward to. When's the next time we're going to Confab?
Sunday, I think, is the best day. I'm going to be back, and then I guess they're going to reconvene next Thursday on this justification of compelling interest for the government. So I'll be back for then. But Sunday would be the great time at 5:00
I'm down with it, George. And if everybody else wants to join us, we'll be here. So
support us.
And thank you for everybody who's supported me this week. It's been very good. And we'll see you next week. Or we'll see you on Sunday. What? Oh yeah, yeah. I have to pimp this. So the Duke Report is at like 784 followers or something like that. And some people watch us on the Reality OS, and lots of people watch us on the Duke Report. But if you could like and subscribe on the Duke Report, if I can get that up to 1,000, then lots of things happen. Like when George tweets the show out, there actually is a thumbnail that shows up. That actually is completely regulated by how many people subscribe to the channel. So like and subscribe, the Duke Report, and then we can get thumbnails, and then the tweets will look better, and then our audience will get bigger. That's it.
Yeah, I wanted to push for that too. Let's see if we can't get you to 800 by Sunday, and send this out to your friends and say, subscribe to this. This is the greatest hour of talk.
Yeah, and this is by far the best analysis so far of what's going on, with the most amount of passion.
Yeah, well, and fire without heat without light is worthless, really. But I mean, it's 95% light. You're going to have a little bit of heat after sitting through these things, but we're going to keep bringing it, and so please subscribe or tell your friends to subscribe.
All right, I'll talk to you later, George.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hello. Goodbye.